This video was made possible with support from viewers like you. If you find this video useful, consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/FastGadgets. Welcome back, Gadgeteers. Today I'd like to talk about a fairly important issue. The question of, will the patches for Spectre and Meltdown slow down your system? So I've taken a couple of systems of mine, some are Mac, some are Windows, and I've decided to go ahead and do some benchmark testing before and after the patches have been applied for Spectre and Meltdown to see exactly what, if any, the slowdown may be. Now, these scores we're going to look at may surprise you. I do want to point out, however, that this is really subjective on my part, so these scores represent what I know, but other people may be getting other scores, and it's even possible that the patches for Spectre and Meltdown may not be causing any slowdown. It may be other patches. For these tests I use Geekbench 4. In the future I'll probably use other benchmarking software, but after we talk about the Geekbench 4 scores, how well, in my opinion, subjectively, the systems are working. So start off with, first, let's talk about the MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro had a single core score in Geekbench 4 prior to the patches of 4,503. After, it had a single core score of 4,287. Now, the multi-core score before patch was 9,545 and after patch was 9,358. So the change in processing power for single core was about 4.8%, almost 5%, and that's, although not overly significant, it is a definite change and it is unfortunate. Now, the MacBook Pro 2017 that I have is the base model 13-inch with an i5 dual-core processor by Intel. The percentage change for multi-core was about 2%, and I don't consider that very significant. I think that variance is really quite low, so I'm not concerned really with the MacBook Pro. So if you're looking to upgrade, or rather update the security fixes in MacBooks, at least from what I am seeing, I think you will be okay. I will be doing my MacBook 2015, and I will do the MacBook 2008, the MacBook Pro 2008 I have, and at some point I'll be doing my wife's MacBook Air, so we'll talk about those scores in the future. But for right now, I'm really not seeing a huge change for a newer 13-inch MacBook Pro. Next on the list is the Lenovo Yoga 910. Good news here, virtually no change. Before patch, single core was 4,373, after 4,362. The multi-core before patch 8,642, and after 8,461. So only 0.25% change in the single core, and we're seeing a 2% change in multi-core. So a small change, strangely enough, on multi-core, but not really on single core. So the Yoga 910 had the least amount of change, which really surprised me because it has the Intel 7500U i7 dual-core processor in it. I was thinking that that processor of all of them would be most likely to show a change, a significant change anyway, but only about 2%. So sort of in keeping with the MacBook Pro 2017 at about 2% for multi-core. Now, the next computer surprised me quite a bit. This computer, of all computers, I did not think would have a problem at all, and we're talking about the Dell 5675 Ryzen 7 1700 desktop tower computer that I use for editing. I decided to take a closer look at the Dell 5675 tower after I finished this video, so I did include the Linux Geekbench 4 benchmarks, and I was very pleased to discover that after the patches have been applied, I see that single core is actually sped up significantly, and multi-core is actually sped up as well in Linux, but in Windows 10, after the patch, we see a significant slowdown in single core scores and a significant slowdown in multi-core scores as well. Fortunately, with the Dell 5675 with the Ryzen 7 processor, it looks like about 10% on single core is going to be the hit we're going to see. So if you do have the Dell model that I have, you unfortunately are going to see a percentage of about 1/10 decrease in processing power. And this may also affect other systems that are using Ryzen processors, but it remains to be seen really. If you do have a Ryzen processor and you apply all the Windows updates and you see a decrease in processing, I'd be very curious to know. It was a disappointment, but at least multi-core still looks strong. And of course, this is only in Windows 10, not in Linux, so Linux scores might be a little bit different. So let's get right to the bottom line. Should you be worried about patching your systems to protect them and make sure that they're secure? I'm gonna say no, but a caveat with any type of updates, I always like to say that you should have a backup of any documents or important data or anything that you have on your system that you can't do without. Whether you move it over to cloud storage, make a copy on cloud storage, or you use a portable drive, or you have a secondary drive in your system and you make a backup of your data. I really feel that's a good thing to do before you go ahead and do updates. I try to do that on a regular basis. I now have a 4 terabyte drive inside my Dell Inspiron desktop, and I can access it from Windows or Linux, so I regularly do backups to that drive, and then just to be safe, I do a backup to an external drive just to ensure that I have a copy of my data. Now, any documents that I have, of course, are saved in cloud storage, not videos or edited videos, but documents specifically I do save in cloud storage. So I have another backup of those. So any critical documents I need to get access to, I can quickly get from the cloud. After you apply the updates, will you see a performance hit? Yes, you're probably going to see a small performance hit, but all of us know that even if it wasn't an issue with the architecture of the processors and having to apply these patches, it could easily be something else as well. So down the road, as time goes by, we're going to get more and more patches. We're going to get more updates for Windows 10 or Linux or Mac, whichever you're using. And over time, our systems are going to become slower anyway. This was just a more significant performance hit, although not really that much. On my Ryzen 7 with that single core score, having a 10% performance hit does kind of hurt, but looking at the Intel processors for what I do, strictly from a processor performance aspect, 2% on multi-core I think is acceptable. And you can expect more of that in the future anyway. We know that as time goes on and our systems age, we're going to see slower and slower scores. And that's just the way it is because the operating system becomes busier, there's more to it, and unfortunately things do get a bit slower over time. It is reasonable to assume that it won't be so slow that it'll be unusable. Case in point, I still have the 2008 MacBook Pro that works great, and I use it all the time to watch videos. I had a problem with my network here at home, and I had my cable provider and my internet provider out to help me out. And that happened to be the only system that had a wired jack in it, except for my desktop system, so it came in really handy for testing. I use it for all kinds of things, and it's a good system still, even though it's more than 9 years old. So the bottom line is, as our systems age, yeah, they're going to get slower. So should you do these patches? Yes, you should. If you're on server, should you do these patches? It really depends what your servers are doing, how many ports you have open to the public, if any. If it's a private system, maybe a cluster of servers that's doing some kind of number crunching and there's no outside access on the internet to it, it's on an intranet, you don't want to lose that 10 to 30% performance that you have on a large cluster of servers. I can't blame you if you don't want to apply the update. If they're public facing servers, I would say yes, I would apply the update, and I would seriously consider doing that. As a consumer, I don't think you're going to have to worry too much. So my recommendation, do your backups before you do updates anytime, not just this time. It doesn't have to be anything sophisticated. Buy a $50 USB hard drive, run a quick backup of your user folder to that hard drive, run your updates. I don't think you're going to have a problem. Now, there have been some reports of some people with older AMD processors having their systems bricked. However, they still are able to recover Windows 10 and get Windows 10 working again, but some of the time it takes a reinstallation. So that's why I say back up your data, because if you do have a problem, you can go to a backup system and you at least have access to your data. Or when you restore your system and get it back up and functional, you've got that copy and you're ready to go. Hope this was helpful. I look forward to seeing you on the next Fast Gadgets video. If you did enjoy it, consider liking and subscribing. If you can help me get my subscriptions up, I can get other funding for the channel, which will help me to produce more content, and I think that would be an awesome thing. And I do appreciate it if you share the video as well. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.